Yeah, y'all call me right after cardio with Love. Love's in there working us, man.
So the conductor is now a captain. How
Yes,
does that
sir.
sound?
It sounds really good to me. That's always been one of the biggest honors, to be able to have the people who are in there seeing the work that you put in on a day-to-day basis, and have them make the decision that, I'm somebody who's worthy of leading this team. So it's really one of the greatest honors I could ever have, and I'm just so grateful for this team to allow me to build into this role, and I'm excited to take it and, lead this defense, lead this team to a really good year.
What's the responsibility for you that comes with that honor?
Yeah, I think it's leading in a similar way to what I always have been. Now I have a C on my chest, but it's about that play-to-play communication. It's about building those relationships with the guys to where if somebody's off, now I can be that bridge between coach and player and be able to talk to them and make sure that their head's in the right space to be able to get the job done that we need to have done. So I think it comes down to, again, those relationships, that on-the-field communication, off-the-field communication with coaches, and that's something that's already been building up throughout this offseason, being able to talk with Coach McVay, with Coach Giff, with Coach Shula, and to really just be a voice of our guys, and to really lead them, and kind of mold the type of energy, the type of team that we want to be. So it's a really huge responsibility, and I'm super excited to carry that.
Playing alongside AD, how did playing alongside AD cultivate and sharpen your leadership?
Yeah, I think the ways that he led, when you think of leaders, you think of really, really vocal people. He's really vocal when he needs to be, but he was always one of those guys that was just, follow me. And if my example is worth following, then other people will. And so that's kind of what I've taken from him is, okay, make sure that my example is worth following. Not only is it going to bring me success, but if I'm doing something that other guys want to follow along, then I can encourage them and bring them into, my process, and have them gain success as well. And then with him, it was a lot of on-the-field communication too. Little subtle things, so where we talk a lot in practice so that once we're out on the field, we don't have to talk too much. But everybody knows what's kind of going on, and in particular for me, being able to work alongside him, that I knew what he was thinking and what he wanted. So I think a lot of that communication does go a long way.
What are some of the things that you gained with your off-season training with Al Carson?
Yeah, so Pootie is the guy. He is very particular. You have a lot of D-line trainers that just kind of put you through a bunch of drills and you're working moves that you already have, and maybe they have a couple of notes. But he really broke it down to like the specific body parts, the way that your hand is moving, the way that I interact with an offensive lineman or an attacker is gonna, like what that's gonna create, what type of response they're gonna have, how I can beat it. It's always about countering the counter. And so I'm gonna continue working with Pootie. He's I should actually be able to see him before this Detroit game just to walk through some stuff. He's gonna be out there, but he is a guy. Like he's really smart. I'm really, really grateful that AD put me in contact with them, and I'm looking forward to, hopefully bringing what he's taught me and, bringing that into the scope of what this team asked me to do, and hopefully that shows up on Sundays as well.
And
When you think back to the playoff game in Detroit, you were on the field for that last first down. What do you remember from that game?
Yeah. I remember like we were in a 4-minute, and in our head it was, we're going to get the ball back to the offense. Staff is going to catch fire, Pook's going to catch fire, Coop's going to catch fire. They're going to do some of the things that they'd already been doing earlier in the game. And so never at any point during that game was it like, we're going to lose this. It was always, we're going to win this. We're just going to get this stop. And having that big third down conversion, I'm pretty sure it was for them. And then that last, them taking a knee, it was just like, I was kind of in shock. I didn't know that it was real. But I am just super excited now I keep kind of hyping myself up about it, to be able to go back to the place where it all ended and, just pick up right where we left off, and hopefully with a much better outcome. But that's definitely a moment that kind of sticks into your mind. It was cool for the Lions and that organization and that city to have that win, but it was heartbreaking. So looking forward to being back there next Sunday.
When you consider,
Did you know that was your last time playing there?
He had kind of hinted at it, but I feel like I thought that I could, kind of convince him, or that somebody could convince him. But I definitely knew we were coming into the locker room, and I'm just like destroyed, because I'm like, this could be the end for him. Like I wanted to be able to, help us go all the way for him and for a lot of the other guys on that team, and of course for myself as well. And I'm coming back in the locker room and I'm crying. I'm just like beat up and I'm like, and I'm pissed off. And he's like, you got a lot more football left to play. And he's sitting there smiling. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, this might be the end here. But yeah.
And how does it feel knowing that he's kind of passed that torch, especially with the captaincy around you?
Yeah, it feels really good. I've been able to talk with him in the off season and, kind of pick his ear with some wisdom, and that relationship I know is something that's going to continue to go forward even though he's not on this team. So to have him be able to kind of like pass down the torch to us and to me definitely means a lot, and now it's just what can I do with it.
When you consider what leadership entails and requires, which person or book has been most influential in your philosophy around leadership?
That's a great question. I've read a lot of books, and really a lot of those, or a couple of books, but the books that I do read are kind of around that mindset, whether it be Relentless by Tim Grover, Winning by Tim Grover. Those have been really great books that have just shaped the way that I've perceived things. Something that I'm reading right now is Extreme Ownership, and I think that's by Jocko Willink and somebody else. And that book is just talking about, like, if you're the leader, if you're the person who's over everything, it doesn't matter if somebody under you messed up. It's ultimately, it's your L to take, and your responsibility. And it's about how when you go and take that extreme ownership, how that allows everybody else to also take extreme ownership. And so that's something that I'm trying to apply. I'm on the daily. I just started reading it, but just making sure that with anything that it regards to my D-line or my defense or now, my team or our team, being able to take ownership and then being able to go back and fix whatever the issue is, but making sure that it's coming from an approach of, I'm in this with you guys. Like if somebody else messed up, okay, then I didn't communicate good enough. If we didn't work a game well enough, then we got to figure out what the issue is. But it starts with me and starts with the introspective look to make sure that we can all look introspectively to be able to put the best output out there on the field. So
some of the other offensive and defensive linemen also worked with Pootie. I saw this offseason. What do you think the value is in just having that kind of external perspective?
Yeah, so being able to bring Pootie out here out to LA. He came out to LA with us. Was really, really good, and being able to get that group together to work with them was really good, because now we're all speaking the same language. Some of the moves that maybe somebody saw me do last year, now it's explained kind of from the base root, or now some of the things that I might be crafting, or some of the things that Bobby or Desjuan or that Braden might be crafting. Now you get to break it down and be able to speak that same language. And then another great thing that Pootie did was he was also working with some of our O-linemen too. And the last couple of days, we were able to just go D-line versus O-line, and not in a sense where it's, full speed, go, but it's really technique. Okay, this is what he's teaching the O-line. This is how you counter this particular move that he taught the D-line. Now, how do you counter the counter? How do you set up different things? And it helps to slow the game down. It helps you to know now where you feel different things, how to respond. And so now if I see somebody working a similar move, or now if somebody else sees me working a move, they know, okay, where did this go wrong and how can you get better? So we're all speaking the same language. Being able to see a lot of these practices, be able to go against each other and see kind of what the response creates and how to respond to that response is really great. And I think it just builds up a lot of good team camaraderie too. Being able to work with the same guy, especially offense and defense, defensive line was really huge.
With Quentin Lake also being very effective, what stands out about him as a leader?
Yeah, he's a really vocal guy. He's a guy that knows his stuff. And so I just can't say enough too about his character, the way that he carries himself, his energy, man. I'm just super excited to be able to lead this defense alongside him, to get somebody from the front end and the back end, and to kind of have those worlds combined, because what we do is, predicated off of the back end covering. And so now to be able to have that communication and them covering, they don't have to cover as long if we're getting active. And so to be able to have that leadership, that two-pronged leadership along the defense is going to be great as well.
Two-parter.
Nice.
Unrelated. This being kind of the final day before game week. Just want to get your assessment on how it's been for you guys as a team going through this period,
Mhm.
and then secondly, just your impressions of Jared versus Braden Fisk individually and together.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start from the jump. Okay, how this team has kind of handled this period. You know, of course, these past couple of days are some of the hardest days, really the hardest days in the schedule. And, you know, having to say goodbye to some guys that you got really close with or who you thought really had a good shot is hard. But just the way that we've continued to stack days, right? Like, there's different adversity that comes up in a practice, whether people go down for a little bit in practice and now you're playing with less bodies. You know, whether it's people get tired. Now we're in Houston and it's hotter than normal. You know, just being able to respond to adversity, to continue to try to take steps as a team, and now ultimately realizing, like you said, like next week it's really go time. Like for me, each step of the way this week, you know, the 53 comes out, the captains come out. It's all built up towards September 8th. You know, we're ready to go and play ball, and so I think everything has kind of been building towards that. Us as a team, we've been building towards that as well. So that's something that's super exciting. And then to talk about JV and Fiske, those guys, you know, they bring a lot of energy. I'm sure you guys have heard whenever Jared gets anywhere near a quarterback, he's talking. But just the energy, I'll start with Jared, that he brings, the pass rush ability that he brings, the aggressiveness, even in the run game. He's going to be somebody who should be really special for us. And now we're starting to communicate really for us, one on that defensive front. And once we start not taming anybody's pass rush or anything like that, but being able to communicate so that we all know where our ops are, and to be able to execute for us, I think we're going to be a really good front and a front to be reckoned with. And I think JV is going to have a very huge part to play with that. And then Fisk too, he's just, you know, to me, he's been very consistent day in and day out. He's working his craft. He's locked in. You know, I see his process a lot more personally and intimately than I see Jared's, just because we're in the same meeting room, we're doing the same lift. But he's a guy who so far has been the same guy every day, and I hope he stays that way. And really, I know that he will. And really, both of those guys, their stories resonate with me. Like, I remember Jared when he was playing at Albany and watching his tape transferring up to Florida State, or when you talk about Fisk going from Western Michigan up to Florida State. These are guys who have, you know, started at the bottom, so to speak, and have worked their way up. And I have a lot of respect for the way that they approach the game, the way that they're starting to see things, the way that they're understanding that this defense and this team is more than just an individual person. It's how do you fit in the grand scheme, and when it's time to go, when the lights are on, those guys are gonna, you know, have a good little gleam in their eye, and they're gonna be ready to go. So I really can't say enough about those two. I'm really excited to see what they bring to this team in the season, but already they've brought so much, and I just can't wait to continue to grow as a defensive front and as a D-line unit with those two.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.